Hello everyone, this is Ms.Shopita Khurana, Faculty Department J&MC for Tecnia Institute of Advanced Studies. And today the topic of our discussion is communication barriers. There are many reasons why an interpersonal communication may fail. In many communications, the message may not be received exactly the way the sender intended it. Hence, it is important that the communicators seek the feedback to check their message has been clearly delivered or not. The skills of active listening, clarification and reflection, which we will discuss shortly, may help, but the skilled communicator also need to be aware of barriers to effective communication. There exist many barriers to the communication and these may occur at any stage in communication. Barriers may lead to your message becoming distorted and you therefore risk wasting both time or money by causing confusion and misunderstanding. Effective communication involves overcoming these barriers and conveying a clear and concise message. Some common barriers to effective communication includes the use of jargons, overcomplicated or unfamiliar terms, emotional barriers and taboos, lack of attention, interest, distraction or irrelevance to the receiver, difference in perception and viewpoint, physical disabilities such as hearing problem or speech difficulties, physical barriers to nonverbal communication, language difference, and the difficulty in understanding the unfamiliar accents. Expectation and prejudice, which may lead to false assumptions or stereotyping. People often hear what they expect to hear rather than what is actually said and jump into the incorrect conclusions. Cultural differences, the norms of social interaction vary greatly in different cultures, as do the way in which emotions are expressed. For example, the concept of personal space varies between one culture and between different social settings. A skilled communicator must be aware of these barriers and try to reduce their impact by continuously checking, understanding by appropriate feedback. Barriers to communication by categories. Language barrier. Clearly, language and linguistic abilities may act as a barrier to effective communication. However, even when communicating in a same language, the terminology used in messages may act as a barrier if it is not fully understood by the receiver. For an example, a message that includes a lot of specialist jargons and abbreviations will not be understood by a commoner, by a receiver who is not familiar with the terminology used. As nurses, we are especially prone to making this mistake. We must remember to use the language that can be understood by the receiver. Next in the queue is psychological barrier. The psychological state of the receiver influence how the message is received. For example, if someone has personal worries and is stressed, they may be preoccupied by the personal concerns and not as receptive to the message as if they were not stressed. Stress management is an important personal skill that affects our interpersonal relationships. Anger is another example of psychological barrier to communication. When we are angry, it is easy to say things that we may later regret and also misinterpret what others are saying more generally. People with low self-esteem may be less assertive and therefore may not feel comfortable communicating. They may feel shy about saying how they really feel or read negative subtext into the messages they hear. Physiological barriers may result from the receiver's physical state. For example, a receiver with a reduced hearing may not grasp the entirety of a spoken conversation, especially if there is a significant background noise. As an example of a physical barrier to communication is a geographical distance between the sender and the receiver. Communication is generally easier over shorter distances as more communication channels are available and less technology is required. Although modern technology often serves to reduce the impact of physical barriers, the advantages and disadvantages of each communication channel should be understood so that an appropriate channel can be used to overcome the physical barrier. Attitudinal barriers. Attitudinal barriers are barriers or perceptions that prevent people from communicating effectively. Attitudinal barriers to communication may result from personality conflicts, poor management resistance to change, or lack of motivation. Effective receivers of message should attempt to overcome their own attitudinal barriers to facilitate effective communication. These were some barriers which you are supposed to keep in mind and check for the effective communication. That's all for today. For more updates, subscribe to our channel. With this, I, Shopita Khurana, sign off. Thank you.